Hi, this is Marlo with EQ in Real Estate, local realtor here in the Silicon Valley. So this is the 3 secrets to selling your home for the most money that buyers don't want you to know. Here's a story about 2 properties that are very similar in the same neighborhood, listed at the same exact price, yet one significantly sold for under the asking price and the other sold for significantly more. So this video is going to answer why and how this is possible. So regardless if you're selling your home now or sometime in the future, if you stick with me, by the end of this short video, you'll be ahead of 99% of all other homeowners thinking about selling their home. You're going to learn secrets about selling your home for the highest price that 99% of all licensed real estate agents don't even know. So these are the strategies that I learned selling and helping homeowners like you over the past 15 plus years of being a real estate agent. These strategies work time and time again for my clients, and on the average, I'm able to get them 5% more for their home than what they originally wanted to sell for. It's like James and Jane from Sunnyvale. We listed their home at $2,350,000 and sold it for 9% more. Or like Joey and Kat from San Jose. I originally listed their home for $1,001,225 and sold it for 4% more. Or like Ken. I originally listed the home at $2,210,000, ending up selling it 10% more. And I'm going to show you in this video exactly how I'm able to do this for you. So why did I make this video? It's really simple. My goal is to give you a real behind the scenes look into how I'm able to get my clients these type of results and why so many other homes not just fail to sell, but they sell for significantly under the asking price. So you owe me nothing, but when you're ready, my goal is one to earn the opportunity to interview for the job of selling your home. And if you stick with me to the end of this video, I have a special gift for you. This is something that banks have paid me $400 to $500 for, and you're going to get it 100% free. So let's start with something simple. Then we'll get into a bit more advanced. So the driver of home prices is obviously supply and demand. And what we know about this is really, really simple. That if supply is low and demand is high, you get a higher price for your home. On the contrary, if supply is high and demand is low, you get a lower sales price. Everybody knows that. The question is, how do we create a situation where we have more demand for your home than there is supply, regardless of what's going on with the market? So it leads us to secret number 1, price bracketing. Meet Brian and Lisa. They're home buyers approved to purchase a home up to $1,100,000. Then we have Jill, home seller, whose home is worth $1,030,000 to $1,055,000. Now, when we look at how buyers search for homes, this is what they do. They go onto their favorite website, and inside of that website, they search for properties for sale in whole numbers. An example, like you can see on the screen, a typical home search for buyers that are approved up to $1,100,000 might search for homes between $1,000,000 to $1,200,000. And this is very, very common. This is probably what you would do, right? Now, what buyers don't do is search for properties in odd numbers. They would never search for homes, nor do the portals let you anyways, with some random numbers of 999,998 and 1,199,999. They would never ever do that. Well, that's the point, right? So here's the mistake that most agents and most homeowners are making when they go to sell their home. They list their home with the famous 9999 at the end. And in this case for Jill, just an example, let's pretend her home was listed for $1,049,999. You see this all the time when you're searching for homes. This is a massive mistake, and here's why. The seller is looking for $1,050,000 buyer, right? Well, like we just talked about, potential home buyers are searching on real estate portals for properties in whole numbers. And if buyers are searching for homes between $1,050,000 to $1,100,000, this poor home seller who has their home listed for $1,049,000, who was looking for a $1,050,000 buyer, doesn't even show up in the buyer's search. In other words, this buyer doesn't even know this home is a potential home for them. It doesn't even show up in their radar. Why? Because the agent and the homeowner just didn't know any better. So what should Jill do? Well, the first simple strategy is to list properties directly on whole numbers and specifically on price brackets, which we're going to talk a lot about here just in a minute. So if Jill changes the price from $1,049,000 to $1,050,000, here's what would happen. She would instantly double the amount of demand on her home overnight. Look at what happens. If she were to change the price, all the potential buyers searching for homes not only from $1 million, $1 million to $1,050,000, which is what every real estate portal has you do in whole numbers. She would show up as a potential property for those home buyers. And because of her pricing strategy, she might be the best home in that bracket. Well, here's what also happens. The buyers that are searching for $1,050,000 to $1,100,000, she also shows up in these pool of homes for those potential buyers. So by simply pricing on whole numbers on major buyer brackets, the homeowner is able to double the demand for their home. And what do we know about demand? As demand goes up, supply goes down, it drives the price of the homes up. Well, here's just a quick example. Let's just say that the property is valued between $1 million to $1,050,000. Well, step one is to do what I call an active demand analysis. In other words, we have to see where in the marketplace are the buyers who are actively looking for homes right now. Where are they shopping? What price bracket do we have the most demand? So the way that I do this for my clients is I first do what we call a TAM, total adjustable market. We find out what that is. And so this just, for example, property was valued at $1,030,000 and the buyers were looking at a range, let's say around $1 million to $1,100,000. So what we do is we look at to see how much potential buyers are in that entire price bracket for that neighborhood. Well, based on a little research and some of the reporting that I do for clients, we find out that there's 51 buyers in that price bracket in that neighborhood. Then what we do is break down the price bracket. A price bracket is typically between $25,000 increments. Price brackets would be, for example, on home search portals. And so if this is going to match that, so 1 million to $1,025,000 would be a price bracket. $1,025,000 to $1,050,000, another price bracket, and so forth and so forth. And what we find from this example, in the price bracket of $1,050,000 to $1,075,000, there is what we're seeing the most amount of buyer activity right now, or about 39% of all the showings of all active buyers are searching for homes in that price bracket. The next closest bracket down from that is $1,025,000 to $1,050,000. So what does this mean? Well, if that's what the demand looks like, the next thing we have to do is look at the supply. We're trying to analyze where best are we aligned to position the property such that it becomes the obvious choice. Well, if we look at the buyer demand, we said that $1,050,000 to $1,075,000 has the highest demand. Well, the next thing that we want to do is look at the lowest supply. Based on the price brackets between $1 million to $1,100,000, there are 18 total homes for sale in the neighborhood. Now, when we break down that into 4 price brackets that we used earlier, we can see that ironically, the $1,050,000 to $1,075,000 has the lowest amount of active homes. In other words, the supply in the very same bracket that has the highest demand has the lowest amount of inventory. And so therefore, we can see that if this property was listed at $1,050,000, it would be positioned in the bracket of $1,025,000 to $1,050,000, and also at the bracket of $1,050,000 to $1,075,000. It would capture the largest pool of buyers, in this case, 71%. Every buyer looking for a home between those two price brackets has the lowest amount of supply. And this analysis is what must be done on every property before the property hits the market. Now, we need to figure out how do we make sure that your home would stand out in that specific price bracket as what we call the obvious choice. The one where buyers are looking at multiple homes and they look at your home like a magnet, come see your home immediately, and write a winning offer. Well, that's secret number 3, outsmart competition. So we have to first understand how do buyers actually make decisions to write an offer, and not just write an offer. How do we strategically place the property in the market such that the buyer offer represents their highest and most likely offer that you will accept? Well, the first thing is time. And so here's a quick kind of run through of what it looks like. So as an example, this home that is listed at $1 million, if it sells on the first day, it'll sell for over the asking price. And on the average, based on the market we're in, they'll get on average about 125% of their asking price. A home that sells in 30 days will sell a lot less. They might even not get their asking price. And so if you think about this, if you put your buyer hat on and you say, why is this? Well, think about this yourself. If you were to walk into a home the first day and it hits the market and you fall in love with that property and you say, I want this property, what type of offer do you think you would have to write in order for that seller to accept an offer on the first day? It probably have to be extremely strong, right? And then the opposite is also true. If you walk into a property where on the average time it takes to sell, let's just say the average days on market is 14. On this property, you walk into that home, and this is a home that's been on the market for, let's just say, 2.5 to 3 months. Then you want that home, then how much might you offer reflect, right? You probably have a lot more negotiating power on your end, but that only makes sense. So obviously, you want to be a seller where the buyers are competing for your home and you're not competing for the buyer. Well, let's talk about how do we do that. So let's pretend again, you're the buyer. You have your buyer's hat on. We're trying to understand how does the buyer make these decisions. So here's how we stand out as the obvious choice. We're going to do what we call an active listing analysis, and I'll show you how it works. And then we'll do a real one together. So let's just pretend you are looking at 2 homes, and one of the homes that you like, it has more features and benefits than the other one. Maybe the home that you like has a pool, a finished basement, etc., etc. Say if that property was more than the other one, in your mind as a buyer, you might say from a motivation standpoint, you could justify paying more. Now it has more features, it's what you like, but if it was the same price as the other property, yeah, your motivation probably increases now, right? But now, if that property that you love, it has more features and benefits than the other home you're comparing to that was for sale, but it was a lower in price, the home that you wanted, now your motivation goes through the roof, right? And that only makes sense. Well, let's take the next example. Home that you like has the same features and benefits as the other home that you looked at. And if this was a higher price, but it had the same features and benefits, you're probably not that excited about that. However, if it was the same price, it had the same features and benefits, which is very justifiable. If it was at a lower price and had the same, of course, your motivation goes up, right? Then lastly, of course, if a home has less features and benefits, but it's the one that you like, if it had a higher price, you'd probably be like, I just don't understand how this is possible. The other home has more features and benefits, but you want more money. That's what you're asking yourself about the seller, right? So your motivation to purchase that home goes down. Now, if it was the same price, but it has less features and benefits, the same thing. Motivation goes down. However, if it had less features and benefits, but it was a lower price, then it becomes obvious choice. And this is the concept that buyers go through when they write offers on properties with real estate professionals. So let's take a look at real active competition analysis and how this might work for your home. So let's just pretend there are 3 active properties that you as seller might compete with. We first got the one on 420 Bird Street. It's priced at $1,075,000. It's been in the market for 27 days in a market where homes are selling on average 14 days. So right away, we know that this has been on the market for longer than most other properties. Well, it has more features, more benefits than your home. And this is something that both you and I agree on, right? We went to go visit the property, for example. We walked through the home and we both agreed, yeah, clearly this home has more features and benefits than our home. Well, if it's listed at $1,075,000, it probably doesn't make sense for us to enter the market at a higher price. If it has more than what we have, right? We probably can't be at the same price. It's very clear that strategically we need to enter the market at a lower price to attract buyers. That probably makes sense. Now, when we look at the next active listing, 247 Ocean View, it's priced at $1,050,000. It just hit the market and it's been on the market just for 2 days. This property, however, has less features and benefits than your home. So we can justify a higher price. Absolutely, right? We could justify the same price. Absolutely. That would increase buyers' motivation. And if we had a lower price because the other home had less features and benefits, and we were a lower price, wow, do we ever become the obvious choice for buyers? Now, this is how you attract multiple buyers to bid on your property, driving the price up. Lastly, this one on 808 Kaiser Avenue, it's priced at $1,065,000. Been on the market for a little over a month. It has the same features and benefits as your home, right? Your home is exactly close to it, the same. Can you list your home at a higher price and expect buyers to write an offer? Probably not. Can you be at the same price? Well, potentially. If you had a lower price and the features and benefits were the same, well, now perhaps you become the obvious choice. Why would we not want to list the home at the same price if it has the same features and benefits? Well, here's what the data says. This home has been on the market for 34 days, where the average home only takes 2 weeks to sell, which tells us that buyers right now with the same exact features and benefits similar to ours are not willing to pay the price that's being offered. This is great insight for us. This is why we analyze the competition. This is why I always walk my clients through the homes that we're going to compete with so that we can be in a position so that your home property sells for the best price possible. So when we look at this active competition analysis, we've got this one on Bird. It's nicer. It's $1,075,000. We got the one in Ocean View that is not as nice, has less features and benefits. And then we got the one on Kaiser Avenue. That is an exact replica of our home. What price do you think we would become the obvious choice that all these buyers in all these brackets that are searching for homes? They're going to go showings. They're going to go to the open houses. How do we stand out from the crowd such that when buyers look at these 4 homes, that these homes help us sell versus the opposite? Well, it's clear that if we price at $1,050,000 and we have a little bit less to offer than Bird Street, makes sense. Now we have much more to offer than the one in Ocean View, when we're the same price. Then we have Kaiser Avenue. This house is identical to ours, but is asking for more money. This is how we become the obvious choice. This will also instantly double the demand for our home. We talked about this before. If we price directly $1,050,000, we're going to attract buyers that are searching for homes between $1 million to $1,050,000. We'll also show up in that search for a pool of buyers that are looking for a little bit more expensive homes, $1,050,000 to $1,100,000. We become a really good option for people that are looking at the higher price points. The end result is this. Remember Jill, the home seller? She has a home value of $1 million to $1,055,000. She strategically positions her home in the marketplace at $1,050,000, going through all the 3 stages that we just talked about. And on the 3rd day of the market, because of this strategy, she's able to produce 13 showings in her home in 3 days and 3 offers. And here's what we know. When there are multiple offers on a home and the buyers compete for the property, remember supply and demand. There's only one home that 3 families want. When we have more demand than supply, price of the home goes up. Remember Brian and Lisa, the homeowners that were approved to $1,100,000? They placed the offer on the home and won the home based on its features and benefits and the pricing strategy. They ended up getting the home for $1,067,000. Jill is happy, Brian and Lisa are happy, and this is the end result of going through all these strategies step by step. This is how 2 homes that are extremely similar in the same exact neighborhood, where one ends up selling for a lot less than the asking price and one ends up selling for significantly more than the asking price. So let's recap what we learned. Number 1, we talked about how buyers actually search for homes and how you can instantly double the amount of buyer exposure of your home. This is how we get more buyers, which creates competition for your property. Number 2, we talked about where to position your home in the market so that regardless of market conditions, regardless of interest rates, you always have more buyer demand for your home than you do the competition from other homes for sale. This will drive the price of your home up. And then lastly, we talked about how to make your home stand out as the obvious choice to buyers, so that multiple buyers start to compete with one another for your home, ultimately resulting in a higher sales price and better terms for you. So what's next? Well, as promised, if you made it this far, I have a special gift for you. So regardless if you're ready to sell your home now or sometime in the future, I'd like to provide you what we call a detailed home sale analysis. This analysis will show you, number 1, a detailed pricing strategy that will maximize the sale price of your home. Number 2, it's going to include a custom supply and demand audit. I will go through the entire marketplace and provide you with this audit. Number 3, this analysis will include the active competition analysis. I will go through the homes that you would compete with right now, and we would go through an active competition analysis to see what we would do to make your home stand out. And then lastly, you'll get a seller profit report. I'll break down all the numbers so that as you're planning your home, your move, you get a really good idea of how much money you have to work with when and after you sold your home. So the next step is really simple. If you want me to provide you with one of those, just simply click the link underneath this video. You could just fill out a couple details and I can get to work for you right away. Hopefully I found this information helpful. Once again, this is Marlo with EQ Real Estate, local listing agent for Silicon Valley.